Hey guys, this is Yoda. So recently WoW had released an article about hard mode Tazavesh, and there's a new thing. You only get one shot per week. So everyone, when they zone into Mythic Tazavesh, gets a buff called Street Smart. And you lose this buff. You can lose this buff a number of ways. Number one, which is the normal way, is if any member of the party dies inside Tazavesh. So if anyone in your group dies, then everyone, all 5 people in the instance, lose the buff. And there are also a couple ways. I made a couple other ways. I made a list. So number one is someone dies when you're actually trying to do the dungeon. Number two, if you zone into M0 Tazavesh because you're planning to do an M plus key, and someone just wanders off the edge because they're like AFK or something before the key starts, then you will lose your buff and you will not be able to do Tazavesh HM anymore for Mythic Loot. This is very important. There is a small chance that this gets fixed, but if it does not get fixed, be very wary in M plus Tazavesh until you've done your dungeon for the week. Number three, if someone in the group does not have Street Smart, like if you like fail HM and then you join another group, and then that group kills a mythic boss, then everyone in the group loses the buff Street Smart. So if you have failed for the week and you join a group of people who are trying to do a deathless run, then you have griefed them. Anytime if they kill a boss, then everyone loses. Like they'll lose the buff. The other way is if you try to skip parts of the dungeon by killing solely first, like with a lockout or something, like you join someone else's lockout after they kill a few bosses, and you kill solely on hard mode like before doing the rest of the dungeon or any part of the dungeon, any boss basically, then you will also be locked out for the week, and you will not be able to, and you will not receive mythic loot from that boss. So those are the 4 ways that we have found to grief. I'm sure there are other ways. I really hope this gets fixed, by the way, the M0 dying thing. Anyway, so we didn't actually go over what the reward is. So the reward for doing this is everyone at the end of the dungeon gets a mythic loot, 1 out of 6. So normally you can only get mythic loot from either the mythic raid or from your vault, but this is another source, and it is 5 pieces of loot for 1 dungeon, which is actually massive. You are getting more loot per hour doing this, like if you succeed, than you are from the mythic raid. It is actually crazy. So it's very important, I guess, if you care about your character progression, to not mess this up. I predict a lot of people are actually going to mess it up, especially in the first week. But yeah, for that purpose, the rest of this video will be me talking over my VOD. So we just went on the PTR and pretty much one-shot it. On the PTR, we're scaled to 707, which is definitely higher than most people are going to be in week 1. I took off one of my rings just to like kind of even it up, like compared to what we will actually be at. I don't think everyone else did the same though, so there is that. And also we all have full 4-piece tier, which I'm sure not everyone's going to have, especially if your guild isn't doing splits. But anyway, without further ado, we'll play the VOD. So the start is different from Shadowlands. It's basically the same as it's going to be in Mythic Plus. You just fight this guy. As a side note, especially at 707, like 707 -1 ring even, the tuning felt relatively easy. It's basically tuned like a +10, and I think most people are going to be more than capable of doing a +10 on week 1. It's felt basically like 3 to 4, I want to say, key levels too easy compared to what power level our characters were at. Especially the trash. People were I have seen some ideas where people zone into the trash and like play like 5 tanks or something. In my opinion, you absolutely do not need to do that. The trash is very easy. You can go like, slower than we did. Like this group is kind of like all M plus grinders that play PTR a lot, so we're more comfortable doing bigger pulls, I would say. So it's kind of fine. If you're not comfortable doing this, you can just go pack by pack and it'll be fine. The mobs really don't have that much health. It won't be that much slower. Anyway, I do recommend clearing the whole room before you pull the boss. We're gonna pull these. I think I'm also pulling these 2. Okay, this is pretty cowardly. Honestly, we pulled this with the boss on like a hard key level, so it was kind of cowardly to do that. But anyway, I expect most people to do that their first time doing this on hard mode. So the first boss is different because the portal banter spawns with the boss. You cannot pull them separately. So you'll have to deal with the Portalmancer's mechanics while you're fighting the boss. One thing that is worth noting, the Portalmancer has not that much less health than the boss. He has like 2/3 of it. But it is probably worth focusing down the Portalmancer, because once the Portalmancer dies, there's no real threat of losing anymore. While you're fighting the Portalmancer, obviously you will have to play both mobs' mechanics. The main dangerous part, I would say, is if your group doesn't have ways to immune the first boss's interrogation. Fortunately, our group, we have a mage who is immune to all mechanics, and a DK also immune to all mechanics. And I'm playing Paladin, so I can spell ward. So the boss is going to be a lot easier for us. As you can see here, it picks the... I actually thought this was picking the mage, and it actually picked the shaman. And I didn't spell ward in time. Fortunately, the key is extremely low, so we just blow the containment cell up quickly and go back to DPSing down the boss and the mini boss at the same time. Alright, simple enough. On this boss, I would say there's not many things to get one-shot to. Also, by the way, as I mentioned, the tuning on this, especially if you have a little bit of gear, I recommend doing this like later in the week once you've like sent your whatever crest you're going to spend. Once you've done mythic split, or sorry, once you've done raid splits, or even done a little bit of mythic raid, I recommend doing this like last in the week, so you're as geared as possible. Anyway, at our gear level, which is, whatever it is, 707 with a ring off or something, the tuning felt, as I mentioned, extremely easy. What you need to watch out for are the one-shots. So one-shots being like his interrogation, for instance. If you fail to kill the containment cell, or you just stand in the way of the boss and he runs you over, then you will get one-shot. If you stand in this, you might get one-shot, right? So the one-shots are way more scary than the actual like things that are normally hard in Mythic Plus. We are going left. I strongly recommend going left. Even in Mythic Plus, but especially in this type of thing, because going right gives you like more count if you pull everything, and you don't need count, right? It's a Mythic 0. You can also not pull these two Warhounds with the tracker, but I do it just because everyone in the group is already used to it. If you want, you can just kill the tracker solo, and then fight the two dogs, and then fight the tire horn, but we're not doing that in this run. I would recommend not pulling the dire horn into these Nightclaws at the very least if your group is not comfortable doing it. Obviously, as I mentioned, people in this group in the VOD are definitely comfortable doing this, but this could potentially wipe you if your group, especially your healer, is not ready for it. We're gonna start our P. We're going to pull 2 peacekeepers into the boss. Honestly, actually, even in this run, we decided not to do it. I think, yeah, we decided not to do it. I think because I forgot to talent freedom. So we're just going to finish them off and then pull the boss. Honestly, it's probably worth not pulling these into the boss, because this boss can get hectic. So I talent freedom here. Also, side note, you can like just change specs, change talents, change whatever in between bosses. Since it's not a timed event, it is just a Mythic 0, quote unquote. So the difference in this boss is that normally the timer for spawning the next boss starts when they hit a certain health percentage. Now the timer starts immediately. So if you are not careful, you could very easily find yourself facing 3 mini-bosses at the same time. You do not want that. Also, I have heard some speculation that some groups will be waiting for Lust before they pull every single boss in order to not group their lockout for the week. That is reasonable, but I would say you probably don't need Lust for literally every single boss. This boss, however, is a boss that I would recommend lusting. The main reason is that if you do not do enough DPS early on, you will end up fighting 3 mini-bosses. Also, if you lust, by the way, I would recommend holding it for this point in the fight when Eshelite comes down. Still focus down Alkrux, but lust, like, so that the period of time where you're fighting Eshelite and the 3rd boss is as short as possible. So I would recommend holding CDs, for instance. I believe it spawns like maybe 20 seconds into combat. Maybe like 15. So I would just hold on pull and then lust like 15 seconds in if you are doing that strat. This doesn't really change too much from M+, other than the fact that the bosses are spawning at such a high frequency. In terms of what actually one-shots you in this fight, I would watch out for the dispels. And this chains, by the way, if you're playing with a paladin, it is extremely useful in this fight. You can just freedom off all the chains. The venting protocol also, if you're a melee, don't stand in the boss or you will probably die. And this swirling animation, especially again for melee, be very careful. Uh, just run away, play every mechanic extremely safely, in my opinion. Especially once Venza is down. If you lusted like when a She-Light came down, uh, like there won't be like you'll easily make the DPS check is what I'm trying to say. You'll easily make the DPS check if you lust when a She-Light comes down. So you don't really need to greed DPS at all. In fact, I say meet the DPS check, but there actually is no DPS check. So just take your time, don't die, and the boss will fall over eventually. Alright, so that's this boss. Next we move on. By the way, one thing is I recommend taking every skip extremely slowly, or just don't skip. These mobs on the left, you can walk through without Mind Soothe. These you cannot, but if you have a priest, obviously just Mind Soothe for safety. And while you're doing skips, I would recommend taking it extremely slow. Watch out if anyone messes up anything and be ready to like save them. Again, if anyone dies, it's over. So yeah. Alright, next we do a big mailroom pull, I believe because we have Lust up. So we wanted to pull a boss as soon as possible, so I am pulling the whole room here. Obviously, again, you don't have to do this. You can go like pack by pack, or maybe like probably two of these is probably safe. 3 is like a little bit dangerous, but again, it's like PTR, so we don't care that much. Yeah, so we dispatch with a trash pack, and we're gonna pull this guy. So this boss is significantly more difficult. I would definitely recommend having Lust for this Postmaster. And the change is that when you pick up a suitcase to throw into the chute, you get rooted. So you have to like hopscotch it. Either you can hopscotch it yourself, or you can like throw it to someone else. Also, effects that break roots do work. So Disadvance, not Disadvance, Wraithwalk works, and Blessing of Freedom works. I think Tiger's Lust probably doesn't work, and Blessing of Protection work. Bop works, Spell Ward does not work. As you can see, I freed myself and I just pick up a couple and throw them in, and we have our priest here sitting next to the chute, and we just throw to the priest basically. If you can't throw it in yourself, you throw to the priest and he throws it in, or whoever is standing there basically. You can also throw it to yourself. We don't actually show that tactic here, but if you throw it like maybe not max range, but just a little bit of distance, you'll become unrooted, and then you can walk to where you threw it, pick it up, and then, you know, throw it again, and then do that a couple times and you'll be at the chute. And that's the boss. 130 kill time with Lust, so if you're not doing the same DPS that we're doing, which you probably won't be, because I think our characters are a bit overgeared. We are, again, scaled to 707, but obviously if you're zoning it like I-700, you can expect a significantly longer boss fight. This market area, I am going to take relatively quick compared to what I recommend doing. This pull, these cartel lackeys are kind of fine. Just worry a little bit about aggro. Also, by the way, especially for DPS, be extremely careful for aggro in these dungeons, because, you know, it's, as I said, they are undertuned, so you don't need to greed at all. The only way to fail is dying to something stupid. So dying to aggro is definitely counts as something stupid. I am going to turn in here and then bring this to the next vendor. Instead of just finishing off the pack here. If you're doing this and you're like not that super geared or not experienced, I recommend killing the strong arm first before turning in here. And the event will start as soon as you turn it, as soon as you, we'll just show it here. The event will start as soon as you drop the item here. And it spawns a lot of mobs. Also, these mobs, by the way, this pack in particular is extremely dangerous for the tank. So especially if you like bring the previous strong arm into it, make sure you have a cooldown running at all times. If you do not have a cooldown running, then you can kite. These strong arms are can take CC, so you can like AoE stun or slow them or something and then just walk away. This pull, I would say, in particular, is extremely dangerous. After that, we go to Mises Oasis. This is the one fight I would say you definitely do not need to lust. It is pretty chill. Also, if you're gonna lust, I don't even know which part you would lust. So I don't think it's worth saving lust for this, just to save yourself some time and some sanity. So the first part is basically the same. You do some node RP, just push the extraction button when you're getting your notes. This pull is the same. Don't let Menacing Shout go off. Hyperlight Bolt probably won't one-shot you, but 2 Menacing Shouts going off will definitely one-shot you. If you have an AoE interrupt, I would probably use it there. The change in hard mode is the second set of ads. So as you can see, as soon as we're done with the second set, a bunch of enemies will come in one by one. I would say generally these are not too dangerous, just like don't stand in circles. Drum roll is unavoidable damage, but again, it's undertuned, so like no one's health is really moving. No one's health is really moving. They all have one ability, so the dangerous one, in my opinion, is Evale. So the first kick, Screeching Note, is not that dangerous. The dangerous one is Disrupting Shout. You want to make sure you have an interrupt for that. This one, Discordant, whatever. Make sure someone is assigned to interrupt that, maybe even double assign it. The other thing you can kind of just let go off, in my opinion. I'm playing Paladin, so I will not be letting it go off. But if you have limited kicks, make sure Discordant, whatever, is the thing that gets interrupted. Also, just generally, like, just dodge. It's not that hard. These Rotten Foods, I would say, are more dangerous than any mechanic that these mini-bosses are doing. Also, Sonic Blast is unavoidable damage, but again, in my opinion, it is undertuned. You don't need to be too worried about that. Just don't stand in, like, the Ripcord, don't stand in the circles, and you'll be fine. And make sure your healer is obviously playing the game. Alright, so that's that, and next we'll get to Zogron. So, Zogron has one wipe mechanic, and it is Final Warning. This is new. It's not new for hard mode, it's new for this season, so you'll run into it in Mythic Plus. Basically, whenever it hits 66 and 33%, he starts casting Final Warning. You need to break this shield so you can kick. Also, I do recommend kicking immediately, and that is because of the Rowdy buff. You want to keep the Rowdy buff for as long as possible, and if you kick him immediately in Final Warning, then he's more likely to cast a ability that spawns nodes. Basically, Final Warning and Suppression Spark are the two abilities that spawn nodes, and as soon as you cast them, you can use your thing to roll your Rowdy buff. If you keep Rowdy, it's very likely you're going to break every shield quite easily. If you cannot break the shield, you can probably survive with extremely strong, like, raid cooldowns / personal / immunes, but obviously that is a risk that you do not want to be in a position where you have to take in hard mode. If you save lust, I could see like using cooldowns in one shield and then lusting the next shield if you really want to. Like AFK 10 minutes between every boss. We're going to skip this pacemaker. I do recommend not playing this mini boss. Normally I would say skipping in this type of like event, like Deathless required, is not recommended, but this guy is more likely to kill you than you are to fail to skip. So just jump on this banister and then click. Do not jump and then walk forward and then click, because you'll aggro him and he can potentially like get your allies in combat before they can click. Just jump on the banister once and then click this. Okay, so this boss has a couple changes. First change is that you start off divided into quadrants of 4. Make sure everyone is in the same quadrant. Personally, I recommend starting in this quadrant. That is because if you start here, then everyone is going to like stand next to the boss, and they might get meleeed as soon as he spawns. So if you start here, then you can always tag it first as the tank. Or just pull with taunt, either way. Also, obviously, since we're in quadrants of 4 from the start, you basically have to play the hard version of the boss fight from the beginning, instead of like only having to do it from 40% to 0. Make sure you're coordinated with jumping or dodging these circles. This boss is a pretty good lust, but I would say it's not that required either, to be honest. Basically, you just jump through these teleporters. They always go through the corresponding mark. You may need to go through 2 in order to dodge this Shuri, this line that's going outward. And next, okay, so this triple technique is very different. Also, in this video, you're not going to see how it actually looks without a Paladin. Some abilities cheese it, like Paladin Avenger's Shield, I think Solar Beam, Warlock, Demonology Warlock's Pet Kick, I think also does it. But what's going to happen is every time you interrupt triple technique, he teleports. So what you should do, which we're not doing here, we didn't know about this yet, is you should spread out, have like one person in each quadrant that can interrupt. And then once everyone is spread out, then you interrupt. Then he's going to teleport to a new quadrant. That person interrupts, teleport to another quadrant. That person interrupts, and then it's done. So you need to interrupt this 3 times. As you can see, I interrupt it once and he teleports. And then I use resonance, and that actually basically bugs out the boss. I think they might fix this. So what you actually want to do is have everyone, make sure everyone is spread out. One in each quadrant. And that bug basically also made it so he didn't do any more mechanics for the rest of the fight. So if that happens, then, you know, great for you. If not, make sure you're playing the triple technique properly. Make sure you're playing the Shuri properly. If you do get hit by the line, by the way, since remember, as it is under tune, you can probably live as long as your healer can heal you and you pop a big personal. All right, next we're in Gambit now. We're going to go in the Murloc area. I recommend going left and just hug all the way left. You can wipe to this area if the Murlocs like run to other Murloc packs and just pull a bunch of extra Murlocs. So make sure you're pulling these like away from other packs. Try to avoid pulling as much as you can. I do pull like this one pack over here. One more pack, another pack. Notice how I'm like kind of hugging the coastline and just making sure the Murlocs that we're fighting are nowhere near another pack of Murlocs so they can't walk into them. That's the biggest thing to avoid here. Once those are done, we're going to pull the Storm Guards. You can pull these 2x2. 4 is usually honestly fine unless your melee are complete baboons. In high PTR keys, we were pulling this with the boss. Definitely don't do that. Kill them off first and then pull the boss after. So this boss has 2 major changes. The first change is this Lightning Breaker. This one, or Stormbound Breaker. So it casts Lightning Nova. This Lightning Nova needs to be interrupted, otherwise it's probably going to be a wipe. In another run, we just let it go off just for testing. And remember, on PTR, we do have increased avoidance, and it almost one-shot everyone. So with no avoidance, it will one-shot everyone. So that Lightning Nova needs to be interrupted. And because of that, I actually recommend not stopping these purifiers from casting Empowered Defense until the breaker is dead. Just focus down the breaker, and then when they're casting Empowered Defense, so these are going to be AFK basically, casting Empowered Defense on Hillbrand. Like they're making the boss take less damage, but you're not even focusing the boss, you're focusing the breaker. So I would just let them cast and then kill them in intermission. If you don't have the damage to kill them before that. Okay, so the other change is that in Mythic Plus, the change they did is that the console can be activated. Hold on, we'll go back. The console can be activated by anyone, and everyone can see what the symbols are on the console. The hard mode change is basically going back to Shadowlands, where only the person clicking the console can see it. I'm sure there'll be a weak aura that makes this a lot easier, but for now, we were just reading it. Make sure everyone knows they're in the right spot and double check it. If you fail the turning in mechanic, if anyone turns into the wrong spot, it's a wipe. So one thing you can do is have everyone pick up, have whoever's clicking this say the pattern, then everyone walk to their spot. Don't turn in, just walk, and then have whoever's at the console double check that it's correct, and then say, okay, everyone turn in. That's like a safety measure you can take, or I'm sure there'll be a weak aura that you can just use. Anyway, the breaker doesn't spawn until the first ad spawn. We're not using my tactic that I came up with in this run because I kind of came up with it after, because this is like our first time seeing it. But yeah, I do recommend not stopping the purifiers until the breaker is dead. Literally just focus the breaker, let the purifiers do this thing where they make the boss take less damage while you kill the breaker. Once the breaker's dead, then you can worry about the boss's health. That's the boss. Okay, then we do this trash. This trash you can just pack by pack, especially certain tanks are not good at dealing with Brackish Bolt. Just pack by pack it, don't risk it, in my opinion. Then we fight this boss. So this boss is extremely difficult on High Mythic Plus. In this type of encounter, it is going to be a little bit difficult. I would definitely recommend having Lust. And you'll see why in a sec. The difference between this and the M Plus version, by the way, right now we're just waiting for cooldowns. The difference between this and this M plus version is that the ads need to be hit by two breaths before they die. If you have mage, I highly recommend they go frost for this fight since they can control the ads so well. Although anything that's like an AoE range slow is good, like D&D slow, random hunter stuff, druid stuff, Almond Root Totem, many specs have very useful things for this. As you can see, the first breath hit, and now we're going to hit with the second breath. Also, if you do happen to not hit all four, which I expect a lot of groups, especially early in the season, are not going to be able to hit all four with two breaths in a row, like even I missed one right there. These ads do have quite low HP. They are killable. Just if you're range DPS, make sure you're focusing down the ads if we miss them. Here we shoot it. Boom, it breaks the shield, and then the next breath will kill them when it hits. And that's this boss. Also, general strategy for this boss, you are going to want to proceed along the wall. I know in Shadowlands we were proceeding along the other wall. Now I think it drops too much fire to go like vertically. You kind of have to go horizontally. Just in general, I would say it's way more important to CC these brutes on hard mode than it is on normal, because you need to hit them with two breaths in a row to kill them. And that is this boss. Alright, next we are moving on. We skipped the previous two with Mind Soothe. You can pack by packet here, although I think one Ritualist with one Starseer is surely fine. Also, beware, I'm pretty sure this hasn't been fixed yet. This Drifting Star, if the tank is not in melee, this Drifting Star has a chance to just snap to where the tank is. So make sure the tank at all times is in melee of this Starseer to not run into that bug. If that bugs out and ruins your mythic loot for the week, that'll be really sad. Okay, so we do counters pack by packet. Now we're ready to fight the boss. So this boss, I recommend lusting P2. Also, this boss has a damage requirement. You must kill the boss before 500. It hard enrages at 500. This is the only time check. 5 minutes in. It's the only time check in the entire dungeon. There's also one other change, so you'll see it in a sec here. Whoever soaks this gets a debuff that increases their damage taken. Damage taken from soak. Also, if we tested many immunities, you can immune the damage, like this dot damage that we're taking. You cannot immune getting the stacks. Also, whenever you run into it, it will pull people in. Make sure the group is far away from the star before you run into it, so they don't get pulled into it, into the star, and then accidentally trigger a second one when you're not ready. So as you can see, I have Bubble walked into it. I do not take the dot, but I do get stacks. Also, make sure these Assassin's casts don't go off, but that is also true in Mythic Plus, so. Alright, and then, oh, there's actually a third change, which is these stars. So as you can see, we're all positioned, ready to go. And then the boss is about to start casting. Bang. The boss casts relocation immediately before this, so you have to quickly reposition. And also, if you miss a star, so in normal Mythic Plus, if you miss one star, then the second round only has to hit that star. But in hard mode, if you miss one star, then all 5 stars still need to be hit. They will like become like, you know, re-hittable. You have to hit them all 5 again. Here I do a bit of an oopsie and I move the boss on top of a star. You really don't want to have the boss on top of a star during energy fragmentation, since it makes it extremely hard to dodge, and this is, you know, potentially a one-shot mechanic. Soaking the collapsing star on this boss in this phase is quite a bit harder than it is in the previous phase. I would still say you probably want the tank to be doing it mostly if the tank is like, you know, tanky, I guess. But anyone can really help, like mages, DKs, tanky DPS can really help as well. Make sure you don't hit them too many times in a row so you don't get sucked in, and so you don't stack up this debuff. Generally, we are taking the boss here. I would say generally, especially if the tank is going to be doing the soaking, it's probably better to tank the boss like closer to the middle or over here. Just make sure you do a good job dodging the energy fragments. And that is the boss. So as you can see, this was, by the way, we just logged on to PTR and like 15 minutes in, we started the dungeon and we basically one-shot it. But we did have We're 707. I think a couple of us took off a ring and everyone else was in full gear, and we do have full 4-piece. If you do get loot, it is from the chest here. You get both loot from Solia and the chest if you get the achievement. I believe this is weekly. You can see I did get a mythic neck. And also, I believe it follows the normal dungeon loot trading rules. So if you have an item that is the same item level or higher as the item you get, then it is tradable. So it's tradable mythic loot, which from a dungeon, which is kind of crazy potentially in later weeks. First week, it's very unlikely you'll actually be able to trade it, but it could easily become a thing later. Uh, Side note, we did try many cheeses to like cheese the lockout or like come in with someone who hadn't killed it yet. And so far, we haven't found any way other than 4 or 5 people who have not done it yet for the week, zoning in and doing the dungeon without dying, like, you know, straight playing it straight up. Anyway, that is going to be it for my hard mode guide. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. I stream all the time. Twitch chat is available. And peace out.